So, sorry if it looks like I'm reading off a script. It's because I am. This is like the first YouTube video I've ever read a script for. So, bear with me. So, I'm 30 and I've committed the ultimate sin of dressing how I want. And I know I'm not the only one because there's hella hot, sexy, fly, scene people and emo people in their 30s or pushing 30. That triggering ass phrase. But yeah, I'm still dressing. Oh golly. No, I need my script. So clearly I'm gonna have to like fuck around with it or it'll die. It's on my laptop. So I'm still dressing the way that I did since I was 11, but like elevated and better because we evolve and we get better at it. Because if I still dress the same way that I did when I was 11, I would look like this and that would be so sad. But yeah, the underlight from my laptop is really accentuating my eye bags, which is awesome. But yeah, so as someone who has been on this insane journey being active on social media for 21 years, since the tender age of 9 years old, from unmoderated web pages to seeing all sorts of social media pages be born and die, from MySpace to daily photo or whatever, to Instagram being born when I was in 10th grade and joining Facebook when it was just for college kids. I have interests in all things alternative. The definition of alternative being another route in life, things separate from, I don't know why this arm, I guess it's just short. I'm gonna like scooch closer to it. The definition of alternative being like things different from the mainstream, another choice, another option. But by the time I was 10 years old, I was active on MySpace, listening to My Chemical Romance. Their first song that I ever saw was the music video for I'm Not Okay. It was either Helena or I'm Not Okay. I'm not sure. But it definitely, I think it was Helena. But yeah, it like literally changed my entire life. I started cutting my own hair, and then I asked my mom if I could like get like the scene kid haircut, and she took me to her hairstylist, and then I looked like this. And I was online talking to people way older than me. I should not have been, but again, it was an unmoderated Wild West hellscape of just scariness. But I was telling them that I was like 15 or 16, which is still kind of creepy that they were talking to me when like I was just saying I was like a slightly older child. But now, decades later, still dressing the same, though slightly more elevated. From years of consuming different art, film, media, and music as inspiration, I ask myself, from what I keep hearing echoed through the halls of modern digital spaces, TikTok, am I too old for this? I wonder, at the ripe age of 30, why do I not yearn for a crisp cut bob and a fun little sign to hang on my wall? I mean, I have band signs, but those are for youths. I'm 30 now. I'm far too old for childish things like movies and metal music. Seeing all my friends grow up and into their traditional adult styles, I look into the mirror and I ask myself, am I too old to be dressing this way? The answer is obviously no, clearly. I mean, everyone can dress however they feel confident. For some of us, this alternative lifestyle, like, truly isn't a phase. It's genuinely who we are, like, all the time. So looking like this is how we feel the most comfortable at any age. I was very lucky to have discovered who I was and am at a really young age, with few traumatic events along the way to make note of. Very luckily, I do want to start a story time series now that I feel more comfortable and I feel enough time has passed to talk about the crazy life that I've had in my childhood, teen years, and in my 20s. I think it'll be not only fun to talk about, but interesting and can hopefully help like guide younger people in these spaces. But that's not to say my friends who don't wear their hair with a side bang or wear a studded belt with their jeans anymore don't hold the same beliefs or listen to the same music anymore. But it's just not their style anymore, which is totally okay. It is still mine, though. And am not the first 30-year-old to have this crisis, so to speak. As for generations before me, we have young people who come of age and get told to dress our age. But what does that really mean? It means to conform. It means to conform to what society feels they're comfortable with seeing older people look like. And because someone who is out of their 20s shouldn't be expressing themselves anymore, I guess. Like, expressing and exploring yourselves is for younger people. So by the time you are out of that younger age, you've had enough exploring. You're done now. You need to settle down. You need to grow up. Or you're grown up now. Like, you put it away. Like, get over it. But you know what? Guess what? I explored, and this is where I've settled. I expect this type of rhetoric from mainstream society because that's the whole shtick of being alternative is like, I don't really care what mainstream society thinks because that's, that's just the rub of it is dressing this way and constantly hearing your whole life stop. But what's really getting my goat about it is constantly hearing that we need to stop dressing this way from younger alternative people. That's what's kind of giving me a head fuck lately, is that the call is coming from inside the house. So more and more frequently, I've been seeing youths in the alternative online community telling their elders that they're too old to be engaged with these communities or to care about the state of these communities, to dress how they feel most comfortable, or the phrase that, again, I fucking hate, you're pushing 30. Like, I personally am not sure what they think happens when one comes, like, of age, but in a linear timeline, when you come of age, you elevate that version of yourself. You don't just magically hit a number and then completely change into something that you've never been your whole life. That would be extremely weird and extremely odd, and actually that would mean that you were faking it the whole time. And you would be, the word that I hate, a poser. It would be a pretty cool movie premise, come to think of it, but no, you actually become more alternative with age if this is who you really are, because they do not feel the need to conform as you find your own place in the world, obviously. And frankly, I find it weird that younger alternative people want to conform their older counterparts into a nuclear image of what they believe older people should be, simply because they have now entered this space that they just discovered and they feel uncomfortable with older people like presently being there. That's not to say that like younger people aren't welcome. No, like absolutely, you guys are welcome. We want the communities to continue to be. Like I said, I discovered emo music and like punk music, whatever, classic rock when I was 9 years old, and I thank God for it because like it literally like saved my life so many times over when I felt so alone in the world. So I'm sure it's doing the same thing for so many young kids, and I'm sure so many other older people will help guide kids away from like dangerous situations because there are predators in these communities, and I want to make sure that they're like not going to be in these dangerous situations, because guess what? Like if you're pushing out the safer adults, the unsafe adults aren't gonna leave. But anyway, let me get back to my script. That's not to say that they aren't welcome, Like I said, I entered this space when I was a child. Whether or not I should have for safety reasons is a layered discussion. But I will say some of the coolest people that I know in my life presently are older than me. And I mean much older. Like the coolest person I know in my life, her name is Jen. Shout out Jen. I know we haven't talked in like a year. Or actually, we talked like a few months ago. But she's in her 40s. She's the fucking coolest punk chick you will ever meet in your whole goddamn life. Like, she has the coolest stories in the entire world. And she's still punk as fuck. And she just turned 41. Like, she's rad as hell. And again, like, if you don't want to talk to, like, older people, then you are going to box out people. But yeah, they have life experience. They know all the good music. They know all the fucking cool movies. They'll give you outfit inspiration, or they'll hype you up on your fucking weird fashion when your peers are going to bring you down. Because I'm sorry, like, I got bullied by all the kids my own age, and then the older people around me were like, no, dude, like, you look cool as fuck. But I would like to double back really quick, and that's not to say that you should seek out older people, because like I said, there are predators in this community who are hoping that younger people will seek them out. And frankly, these spaces were not necessarily made for kids in the first place. But, you know, kids exist, and kids are curious, and kids want to look up and emulate the adults around them. That's just a reality that happens, which is okay. So it's the adults' responsibilities in some ways to like look out for the, whether like it's baby bats in the goth community, or like the young punks, or like the baby scene kids. Like, it's not to say that we need to censor ourselves, but if you like see a fucking little kid, like, make sure they're not gonna fucking talk to the predator, or just say like, hey man, this isn't like the scene for you, like, go home. Like, you look awesome, but like, maybe it's time to go home. It's a little late for you. I don't know, I'm getting off track. Anyway, all of this to say, like, if you see an older person and you're a younger kid, don't fucking tell them that they're too old to be dressing like this, because this is our community. You know what I mean? I'd like to double back quickly for a second now and say this video is not to promote going out and finding older people to befriend. As we know, this is how dangerous scenarios can happen. But you shouldn't sit here and tell people who have been part of these communities for years to just leave because they're older and younger people happen to exist in the same spaces. Because frankly, these spaces were not necessarily for kids in the first place. Like, if they're not being predators, they're staying in their lane, they're just vibing, leave them alone. There's no reason to go up to an older alternative person, and I'm using alternative as an umbrella term, as we know, whatever, like, umbrella term, fuck it. Don't go up to some fucking random punk, scene, emo, whatever person at a show and go, Unk, you're too old to be dressing that way. Otherwise, you're no fucking better than our parents telling us you're too old to be dressing that way, or that we're gonna regret our tattoos one day, and you're fucking lame. And we will clock you as such. Because in 10 years, this will still be who we are, and frankly, we will just see you as a poser, and it's a little embarrassing. Like, we don't care that you're younger. Like, it's just embarrassing for you. It's embarrassing. Like, scroll back on all of our pages, because we've been on social media way longer than you, and you'll see that we've been in it for the long run, okay? And I will repeat, it's odd to push older people out to conform and to leave alternative lifestyles, because again, that's how you get a country that you have now. Like, spewing conservative pipeline shticks. Sorry, my speaker just turned off. Saying, hey, you're too old to be dressing like that. Take those piercings out, put a tie on, and get a real style. Like, it's just bizarre to me. And then in the same breath, these kids are like, you need to know the politics, to other kids, and then turning to older people and going, you're way too old to be dressing and expressing yourself. Do you guys not see how hypocritical that is? It's just crazy to me. And I do want to get into the styles a little bit because there's a lot of confusion amongst younger people getting into this now, where I see like we'll just get into it. Okay, let's get into the styles because I think with the information overload of social media, people have gotten a little confused, which is okay. It happens. So again, as someone who's been in it for like 2 decades, I would like to lend a helping hand, and I know I might be wrong about some things. This is a speed run, so if you want to get into it with me, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm not above being corrected, which a lot of people are, and that's a really bad character trait, and you guys should really work on that. So it's okay to be wrong sometimes, guys. It's okay to be wrong. Everyone's wrong sometimes. That's how we improve ourselves, okay? So if you think that I'm wrong about anything, that's fine. Leave it in the comments below. Okay. I saw a TikTok, which is a great example of why I don't really use TikTok that much anymore, that said something along the lines of, I hate that people think that emo people are just sad all the time or can't be happy. And like, I'm sorry, but like emo people were not the ones that labeled themselves that. We did not call ourselves emo people. Okay? The word emo came from emotional hardcore back in the 80s from punk music, because it was like really sad, introspective music. And like other people in the punk scene were like, holy fuck, these people are so emo and emotional. And like no one wanted to be called emo. So like nowadays it's like whatever to call yourself emo because we're being self-aware of like, fuck, I'm sad as fuck, I want to die. But like, yeah, like if you're emo, like you are not like a happy-go-lucky person. Like, yeah, sometimes, like, of course you're a human being, so you're not everything you're not like a cartoon character where you're just one personality all the time. But at the end of the day, like generally speaking, you like emo, and a person who gets called emo listens to emotional music and has an emotional, dramatic personality and tends to wear all black to match their emotional, sad-ass personality. Period. And the whole thing is like, we were very like isolated and depressed. And so it's like, wow, they're being emo as fuck. You're being so emotional and emo. And I will say the stereotype that every emo person like self-harms is not true and like very annoying. So like that's not cool. But at the end of the day, like wearing black, listening to emotional, introspective music is a part of the gig. So like if you're going to turn around and be like, that's just like not true, then like you're wrong, period. Like I don't care. You are wrong. Emo stands for emotional. Like emotional hardcore. Okay. And I will make a Venn diagram or like a little chart, a little visual. Okay, so we are gonna break it down just very crudely here. First, you have punk, right? And this was in the late 70s. And then you have goth, which came from punk, but it's a very different style of music, which then started in the 80s. Goth is more of like a synthy vibe. Punk is political. Political, right? Punk was created in the 70s as a reaction to the excess of rock at the time. It's anti-capitalist reaction to the excess I'm just going to leave it at that. Anti-capitalist reaction to the excess of rock and roll at the time. It's very angry, thrashy, loud, messy. Fuck yeah. Goth is an offset of punk, also political. But I would say it, again, is more like synth-wavy, synthy. I don't really know. I'm not going to pretend like I know the politics behind goth. But I do know, I used to listen to a lot more punk. I do listen to some goth music. But I think that, like, the vibe for goth is more like synthy, romantic, sad, like death. One of my best friends, Eric, super goth kid. When you think of goth, again, you're gonna think of like all black, makeup, a lot of more gender fluidness in punk, in goth. There's more gender fluidness, which again, emo, emotional, hard, core, emo, came from punk in the 80s as well. No politics, right? And then this also allowed people to have more gender fluidity. Gender fluid, it allowed people to express their sexuality in a way that punk didn't necessarily allow for. It's not to say that punk people were bigoted necessarily, but sorry, I'm going off script here. This is just like off the top of my head. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, like emo music. Like I said back in the day, like a lot of emo people, all boys and girls and in between, all had the same haircut, all basically dressed the same. It was about the fucking music. It was about the way it made you feel. And then you have scene all the way over here. And this is the 2000s. So this is like way over here. And then there's a bunch of stuff in between scene. So you have like metal. Which again, like metal could be like hair metal, metalcore, post-hardcore, hardcore, you have techno, electronica. I'm misspelling a bunch of shit. And like, so scene is in the 2000s. A lot of this stuff is in like the 80s through the 90s. All of this right here, right? And also I'd like to say, the hippies and the disco movement is important because a lot of this is a reaction to this, which is in the 60s and the 70s. So to quote Kamala Harris, you did not fall out of a coconut tree. You exist within the context of everything that came before you, okay? So like scene is only here because of all the things that happened before it, right? So like punk only happened as a reaction to like the excess of like disco is dead, right? So they're like burning the disco records, right? And then disco happened in the 70s, right? And then like hippies existed during like Woodstock, and then the Charles Manson murders happened in 1969, which like ended the hippie movement, and then which led into like disco, and then punk people again reacted to the excess of it all, and they're like, fuck this, like we're better than capitalism. And then from that, we're like, okay, this is really angry. Let's get a little bit more like emotional about it. And then other people in punk were like, oh my god, you guys are being so emotional. And then we got, you know, goths and the synth wave stuff of it all, and goth clubs wearing all their makeup and shit. And then, yeah, you go into the 90s. Oh, you got grunge in the 90s, Nirvana, and Alice in Chains. And you got metal, hair metal with fucking Motley Crue, Kiss. Yeah, and you got techno, electronica, Plur, that whole Plur movement. I used to be a rave kid back in the day too. And a lot of scene is inspired by all this. So yeah, everything exists within the context of what came before you. So yeah, very crudely drawn, but it all makes sense. It's all coming together. And that is to say, bluegrass, which is created by black musicians and artists, created rock and roll. So do not box out black alternative people, because they fucking are to thank for all of this. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this section of the video. Okay, yeah. Yeah. And now scene. Scene and emo have some overlap, but they were not created like anywhere near the same time, because scene didn't start until the 2000s. Emo started back in the 80s with punk, and like punk started in the late 70s, and emo started from punk. Again, this is a speed run. People have way more articulate videos about punk and scene and all this stuff. I'll put his full YouTube channel right here, but I think his name is Vitaly. I subscribe to him. He's amazing. He has such addicting content, and I love his accent. But his name is Vitaly. He makes amazing 2000s scene queen videos, and you should watch them. But yeah, scene came from being into the music scene. And scene people had a big interest in being fashionable and not wanting to look like preppy people. So we had like emo haircuts, but also didn't want to be called emo kids because of the negative connotations of being like depressed and being called like pussies and thinking that we like cut ourselves and stuff. Even though, again, I was more of like an emo kid that turned into a scene kid when I was younger. Or really, I was an emo kid that like wanted to be a scene kid, but I was a little bit too like depressed to be a scene kid. Because again, scene kids had more of like a peppy, like trolly personality back in the day. Anyway, so yeah. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't care. I could be wrong. Sorry, I lost my place in my notes. I did like paragraphs, not bullet points. Along the way, they differentiated themselves with their style, and their personality really differentiated themselves. They had a lot more like bubbly personalities, trolly personalities. Their accessories and their styles, they pulled a lot of inspiration from punk, from goth, from rave culture. That's why you have a lot of like brighter colors mixed in with like black. You have studded belts, but you still had like the emo haircuts. They were going to metalcore shows, metal shows, emo shows, raves. There was no political views. I constantly see now that emo has made a resurgence on TikTok. Kids are like, make sure you know the political views if you're going to be seen. Guys, I'm telling you, back in the day, some of the most famous, most popular scene kids in the entire like space were the worst people you could ever imagine, like the worst people on earth. Like it's horrible, like fat shaming, toxic, racist, like the worst people ever. Not all of them, but like a lot of them. Oh, pedophiles, like really bad. So it's awesome now that the culture is so different, because it's generally known to like not be a fucking asshole, but it was definitely not required back then at all. But yeah, it was frankly more the scene culture that like the edgier the better. Like you wanted to be edgy. And I think a lot of it was because you would get so bullied for what you were wearing that they were like, "Oh yeah, like be a bully. Like be a bully back because like fuck the world, you know? Like fuck the world. If you're going to get bullied, then like just like be an asshole." And there's this really fun interview with Audrey Kitching and Hannah Beth, like two really iconic scene queens, that they're like, everything we do is like out of irony. And I think that that kind of explains a good amount of it is, sorry, everything is backwards. I almost like really fucked my hair. But yeah, like everything that they did was like out of irony. And I think that like personality wise and style wise, like kind of explains a lot of the choices. But yeah, so like trolling and shit like really explained a lot of the vibe. So definitely there was no politics at all, and there's no politics for emo either. Emo is very much just being like isolated and finding solace in music and hoping that you'll find someone to like not be alone with one day, or find a group of friends that you'll not be alone with. And internet culture and onlineness really helped with a lot of like emo kids, because as especially I relate to that because I was so isolated as a child, starting extremely young, literally starting in probably like 5th grade, because yeah, you had no one to talk to when you were expressing yourself in that way. Like I completely, like no one would talk to me. I remember core memory, I remember walking out of the house one day and these kids across the street from me screamed, oh my god, the darkness is here, and like started pointing and laughing at me like while I was standing on the porch of my house. I'm 30 years old now and that's still a core memory that I have. Like that's so fucked up. Anyway, so like a small city, like being online feels like a small city of only consisting of other isolated weird kids and a few popular kids who would look at weird kids like they were zoo animals, versus today where you have everyone from all walks of life online all the time. Back then you were trailblazer, especially like kind of flashing forward a little bit to like the 2010s where like fashion blogging became very popular for like business stuff. Like if you were fashion blogging, you were very much a trailblazer. Like you were getting invited to runways. I think of Tavi, who created her own fashion magazine. I can't think of it right now, but I did love her. And she wound up being on like the reboot of Gossip Girl and stuff, which was very cool. But she was only like 13 at the time that she started blogging. It is now called Indie Sleaze. It didn't really have a name back then. It was just like Tumblr fashion. And this is what I looked like at the time. I was, again, very isolated, started really getting into fashion. And frankly, you were just lonely and looking for other people to interact who had similar interests to you because you got bullied in real life. So you went home and logged on and looked for and hopefully found a community who you could talk to and relate with and make friends with. So MySpace became one of those few communities where scene thrived because it was about music sharing. So a lot of small bands, whether it was like indie music, I know the Hush Sound was there. I know Andy Biersack first shared his first band, which was called Biersack, and he went by the name of Andy Six. I was friends with him on MySpace back in the day. I actually got one of his MySpace pictures that I had printed out when I was like 10 years old, signed by him a few months ago. I have a YouTube video posted about that. And countless other bands started on MySpace. And the music was not just crunkcore. It was hardcore, post-hardcore, emo, techno, electronica, acoustic, and the list goes on. And the whole point of the fashion, again, was to differentiate yourself from the other isolated emo and scene kids as someone who was active in the music scene and basically socialized and partied with the musicians more or less. That's why scene queens are called what they are called. They are queens of the music scene. Basically, and a lot of the, not a lot, but like the more popular scene queens dated band members, and I'm not going to get super in depth into that, but Vitaly has a really, really amazing series about that, and I really recommend, again, you watch his YouTube videos. They're awesome. If you're interested in scene culture, I'm gonna just plug him again. He's fantastic. But beyond him, there's other really great YouTubers that have videos about that, and they were dating. It all makes sense. But yes, with the rise of the popularity and specifically what seems to be the stereotypical MySpace scene fashion, it should be noted that scene has a tons of variety to it, because again, as long as you were involved in the music and you had the hair and you weren't necessarily like emo, then you were scene because you were in the scene. But there were tons of overlap, and I think the biggest differentiation is your personality, your style, and the music that you liked. And scene also started trickling into again, I think it was called Daily Photo, because like I was on, again, I can't fully remember the name of the website, but I was on it, Daily Photo, and I know Supermac18 was on it too, who I like loved at the time. I have to, yeah, I'll have to insert a clip of him. He had like the Justin Bieber like emo hair. Tumblr scene kids kind of had their own aesthetic of like hipster, soft vibes, and like I feel like I'm more, again, like emo, scene-mo, as is now coined. We didn't really coin it that back in the day. It was just whatever, you know? Like, we were very anti-label. I feel like nowadays people are very pro-label. Everything has to have a label now, which is bizarre. I think in the age of social media where you need to hashtag everything in order to get visibility, everything is very pro-label or like pro-aesthetic of like, what's this aesthetic? How do I look this up? What do you call this? It's definitely like a totally different landscape than what we were under, where like if you called yourself something, you just weren't that thing. You know, like you just dressed however you dressed, and then like other people had to recognize you as that thing to like be it. But yeah, okay, back to emo style. Sorry, I know like we're all over the place, but whatever. Like I said, the emo and the scene hair are pretty similar now. There's a lot of like overlap, and like kind of back then because of the layers, but back in the day, emo hair was specific to the long in the front, short in the back. And like that was it. And like guys and girls both had the same haircut, including me. Both when I think I had started getting this when I was like 15, and then again when I was 19, and then I don't know, I've had this haircut a few different times. I also got like the mullet chop when I was 13. Like I've had these alternative, again, umbrella term, whatever, a few different times, but you would still get called, like, even if you had these extensions, you would still get called emo. But there wasn't really too much in the way of fashion for emo, just like jeans, sneakers, your favorite t-shirt, whether it was just like a black t-shirt or a band shirt. And personally, like you could throw on like a few bracelets, arm warmers if you were self-harming. Not everyone does, but like some kids really were struggling, like genuinely. Like the bullying back in the 2000s was so fucking brutal. Like it's really hard to look back and describe how bad it was now, because so many people are accepting of it now, and like people watch movies and they're like, bullying isn't that bad, like when you see a bully. But like genuinely, I look back at my time in middle school and like I'm like my chest is getting tight thinking about it. Like it was really like so, like it was so bad. Like I got bullied about my body type starting probably in like 4th grade from other kids. Like it was so bad. yeah, like I personally never self-harmed, but I can understand like why other children did. Like it was so horrible. Um yeah, so like arm warmers were generally associated with covering up self-harm scars, and again this goes back to like the 90s, I'm pretty sure, maybe earlier. Like I'm not entirely sure how early that goes back with, but I think that's also associated with potentially like goth culture. um but again, like emo culture as I'm referring it to now is much more of a modern referral, because again we didn't call ourselves emo, other people called us that as a way to bully us. um but we didn't like dress ourselves up too much. Like we wanted to be very low key. Like we just wanted to listen to our music and like kind of blend in as much as possible. Like I had the haircut, but again I more or less just wore like dark colors and like wanted to blend in and wore like t-shirts and sneakers, and I still got bullied like so fucking bad. Like it was so brutal. Like yeah. I personally, let me get back to the script. I personally just wore basic clothes for a lot of the early emo days and still was isolated to hell, which led me to find Tumblr when it was created, which led me, again, to my love of fashion. That's for another video. For now, emo has been sort of bastardized into anything that's all black, fishnets, corsets, and black lipstick, which is actually goth. So, again, like, it's interesting that today anything emo is considered like all black, corsets, fishnets, black lipstick, when in actuality that is goth attire. And to be goth, you do have to have political beliefs. You do have to listen to goth music to be considered a goth kid. And it does come with personality traits as well. And I don't want to hear, like, I don't have to listen to goth music or have political beliefs. I can just wear goth clothes. Because, like, no, you would just be wearing a costume at that point. Like, sorry. Like, I know it hurts. I know the truth hurts. And it's embarrassing to hear it. But, like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, I know. And I know there's going to be younger people commenting on this being like, you're too old to care. But like, sorry. I know. Ooh. But I promise you the Cure is so good. Like Sister Mercy's so good. Like listen to it. You might like it. And if you don't like it, then maybe the style isn't for you. Goth clubs are really fun though. Goth music's really good. Like if you really like the style, like you might actually really like the music. But yeah, it's just really interesting how like emo fashion, which like there isn't really like an emo fashion. Like it wasn't super fashion based. It was just like regular clothes because it's more music based. It's based in what's in here and being isolated and like listening to music. And that's kind of the funny thing too, is like a lot of people associate like My Chemical Romance and like Mayday Parade and like kind of like some albums of Blink-182, even though that's more like punk, and like some albums of Green Day, even though that's more like punk. And I mean, God, I could just keep going. With emo, even though they're not really emo, they don't call themselves emo. With that, but again, it's like, what do you listen to like when you're sad? Yeah, I just think it's considered like whatever sad music, you know, like sad ass fucking music. So like I don't know, again it's like whatever you listen to like when you're sad, to me like that's like emo music. Like I don't really care. So many people have become like super elitist now, where like that's not fucking emo. God, you're such a poser. Like dude, like shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Like I know that there's like 1980s emotional hardcore music that's like the real emo music, but like drop them in the comments, please. Anyway, if you don't like goth music, though, back to what I was saying, like, don't dress goth. If you don't like DIY, or if you're not anti-capitalist, don't dress punk. If you don't like talking about politics, and if you love Trump, and if you're MAGA, don't fucking dress punk or goth or emo. I know I said they're not political, but still, we don't want you here. It's that easy. These cultures go back far as fuck. They go back to the 70s and 80s. Like, I'm not just pulling all of this out of thin air. I'm not pulling it out of my ass. I know my ass is fat, but it ain't storing this shit in there. Again, I'm not going super in depth with all this stuff. There are plenty of videos that like go in depth into all of this and are probably like more correct than I am, but like I know enough to know that I'm not wrong, like generally speaking. And yeah, I know enough to know who is wearing a costume, because sometimes it's just painfully obvious. And I think it's really funny when people are like, oh my god, an emo person would never judge me. Okay. Because, yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and gatekeep. Like, you could explore yourself. You could try everything out. That's how I got into it when I was a child. I saw my older sister, who was a goth kid, who is still really, like, goth. She's, like, 35 now and still, like, a goth person. And I was inspired, and I got, like, that's how I started listening to, like, rock, like, hard rock and, like, that music. But also at the same time, I'm not going to let younger people who don't know what they're talking about spread more and more misinformation, and then I see it has like 200,000 likes, and then I'm like, oh god damn it. And I know this video is probably gonna get like no views at all, which is fine, but I just had to rant about it. Okay, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want, actually. And if you don't like it, I don't really care. Or if you don't like it, you could tell me that. It's a free country-ish. As I refer to my script again, which I wrote at like 3 a.m. last night. Fake alternative or not, I just expect the same from them, to not give a fuck what other people are wearing. And if you can't do that, then we will have an issue, because again, that's the fucking point, is I'm not wearing this for anyone but me. Just like people who aren't in this for the right reasons will eventually fall off because they're only wearing what they think other people think is cool right now. Like, guys, walk with me. Dressing like this was a way to tell the world that we don't care. We only like this because we like it. We feel hot. We feel sexy. We feel super fly. And like, we don't care if you think we look fucking weird. We don't care if you think our hair looks bad. We don't care if you think tattoos are ugly. We like it. And then all of a sudden it's popular, and now everyone's like, oh my god, I should do that. I have an itch. Do you not understand the definition of like what all of this was about? So if you're only doing this because you think that that's what's in right now, then I feel like you're fundamentally like missing the point of it all. I'm not going to call you a poser. I will just call you a little bit dumb. But that's okay. It's okay to be a little bit dumb sometimes, because we all are a little dumb sometimes, and our like someone has to point out our dumbness in order for us to be like not dumb eventually. Now let's get into how I think younger people can find out if they love what they truly think that they love. And I know some of you guys are not gonna like what I'm about to say. I know that I probably have dozens, if I have that many views, of long paragraphs telling me that I suck and that I'm just so wrong and blah, 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 paragraphs, whatever. But it is so hard to know what you actually like when you're so overloaded with outside influences from social media. And I'm sorry, but my main advice is to unplug. Just get off social media. Just for a few weeks, a month even. Just try it. You might like it. Get a journal, go on walks, try writing some fiction, try drawing or painting, read a book, maybe. Watch your favorite movies, listen to your favorite music. Find out what you like, not what an algorithm is telling you that you like. When we are so constantly craving external validation, and now kids from such a young age, and I'm not blaming them at all, like literally not at all. I started going online when I was literally 9 years old. Like, and whoever is watching this, like, you'll be shocked at how amazing you will feel when you do this. I took a 3-month break from social media after being online for 21 years. And now I don't, like, whatever. You'll be shocked at how amazing it is to discover your own style when you aren't online. Even the fact that you won't be comparing yourself to other people constantly, which I'm sure cannot be okay for these kids and your poor brains. I mean, shit. I got a Tumblr in 9th grade and I had already had trouble with my relationship with food, and that only exacerbated it. It only made it worse, and it made me find new ways to, like, fuel my eating disorder. So I can't imagine the effects that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going through with being on, like, growing up on social media, not just the internet, but like social media in general. And that's a whole other video I want to make. Is I'm constantly thinking about that. Is the effect of growing up in the age of TikTok and Instagram and all of these things. But it's so frustrating that the easiest answer is the right one. And when it comes to finding your own style, self-expression, getting offline is the first step. I know it can be isolating. As I mentioned, our online community is our third place, especially for isolated people like the weird kids, the alternative people. Like, we find our people online. But like I said, do you know if this is really you if you don't go out and look for something else? And I'm not saying leave forever. I mean, I'm literally talking to you right now on YouTube. I'm on social media again. I have an Instagram, I have Reddit, I have TikTok. But I did take my social media break for 3 months after being chronically online for 21 years, over 2 decades. And I mean chronically. But I find myself less and less interested in online validation and what others think of me. And personally, I think that that's punk as fuck. So, I'm 30 years old, and this is who I am, and this is who I will continue to be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything you guys want to let me know, if I was wrong about anything, if you want to add anything, if there's any other cool, older, scene, emo, punk, goth creators you want to leave in the comments, please tell me. If you are younger and you are just getting into it, that's fucking awesome. I love that. Leave it in the comments below. I'd love to check out your pages. And if you want any tips, tricks, advice, style guides, hair tutorials, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to do that for you. Again, my name is Pluto, as you guys can see in the background. I am a singer, songwriter, musician, screamer, and I am working on new music all the time, every single day, and I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching me. Bye!